Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome back to Project Manchala. Today we have a very special guest for all of you. She's a very good friend of mine and also a fellow artist, Farheen Shaikh. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about how for people like us, our mental health is very important to the art we create, whether it's related to school, whether it's related to personal work, or it's even related to client work. So before we begin, I'm going to kick it over to Farheen so she can introduce herself to you guys, and then we'll just get right into it. Farheen, if you could introduce yourself.
Okay, so hi, my name is Farheen. I just completed my first year of my bachelor degree in IBS, and that's it. That's pretty much all my
Can you
identity
tell our
comprises
audience
of.
what program you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing the bachelor's in interior design.
Awesome. So, Farheen, you and I have known each other for roughly about 3 years now, unless I'm
Yeah,
mistaken. And
yeah.
so Farheen and I met each other at Cedar. She was my senior over there. And during the entirety of our time at Cedar, I did not know you did art at all.
नहीं, I didn't. It was just an impulse decision. A2
hmm
में आके, then
Yeah,
then that's when I decided. I was like, अब यही करना है.
because
I didn't do
I think,
anything.
hmm
Yeah,
like, I think it was
the
very
most I did was
surprising for
take pictures.
everyone, given that
Yeah,
you didn't even have art in A levels. You didn't
yeah,
have it in O
yeah, yeah.
levels
I
either,
didn't.
unless I'm mistaken.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it was a very strange thing. Oh, we're all just out of Cedar now. But he's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to IVS. And we're all just like, excuse me?
I never realized that though because I was just going around my mind, piche, and
hmm
then I just never voiced it out.
So
It
what
just happened.
made you want to take such a drastic step from, because like in Cedar, I think you had like econ and like accounts type
Mm.
subjects, right? Unless I'm
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what made you want to take such a drastic step, jumping from like accounts and whatnot all the way to arts?
Acha, so initially I was like, I'm going to do BBA, MBA, वही जो
Mm-hmm.
regular mainstream चलता है.
Mm-hmm.
But then I studied A-level econ and I kind of freaked out and I was like, पसंद की चीज़ करनी है मुझे. I'm just like, I can't work that hard for something that I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was basically it. I was like, अगर मेहनत करनी है तो just do what you want to.
For sure, yeah, and I personally believe in that as well. Okay, if you're putting your heart, soul, and honestly a lot of money into, might as well do something you enjoy, right?
Yeah,
So, what,
yeah, and
where did the
especially
interior
the
design
time
thing
too.
come
It's
from,
like
though?
3-4 years. Interior design was just like, acha. So basically, when we were applying for IVS, there was like categories, and basically interior design was the one that I liked the most.
hmm
So,
But
so
where did
that's
that
that's.
come from? Like, is there like a personal interest in interior design, or
I mean, I think I feel like I was inclined to that. थोड़ा सा शुरू में I just realized that when I was applying. So it was just a confirmation of something that I already thought.
okay,
So
that's
yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
And then, how long have you been doing art for?
I have, I mean, I don't know if I've been doing art. I've just been like, I was just one of those kids जो स्कूल में जो ना जब आर्ट का पीरियड होता था ना एक हफ्ते में, so I would
Mm-hmm.
be really excited for that. Like some kids would be and then most people would goof off and I would be like कुछ सिखा दो मुझे कुछ सिखा दो क्योंकि टीचर होते थे. So
mm-hmm.
that's where I think I realized I was like interested there. और फिर OA levels में I completely like पढ़ाई इतनी बढ़ गई थी. I just stopped everything. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा artsy pictures I used to take. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came time to decide a career, I was like, कर लेते हैं, let's take the jump. And I did.
So that's a very brave thing that you mentioned, okay, or you're just like, oh, let's take the jump or whatever, right? Because more often than not, you have people coming to this point in their lives and they're just like, okay, but is it worth the risk, right? Because this is like a
Yeah,
very, very big risk. Trying to go for something that you enjoy or something that's established in the mainstream world. I
yeah,
personally am one of those people, right, who found myself in a position where I was just like, okay, is it my career or is it my passion? Because these two things come together in a very, very small gap between each other, I believe. Okay, you have a
yeah,
choice between trying to figure out what makes you happy and then what makes you money at times. Because more often than not, these two
yeah,
things don't go
definitely.
hand in hand, given the sort
Yeah,
of place that our generation is gravitating
Yeah.
towards. So it's very interesting that you decided to take that sort of jump very last moment. So I'm gonna start going slowly towards our main topic, which was essentially how the mental health of students these days affects art as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have been someone who has struggled with mental health quite a bit in the past couple of years, like or at least during the
Yeah.
entire time that I've known you. Would you be comfortable
Yeah.
talking a little bit about that and your struggles with it and how it affected your art as well?
Sure. Acha, so basically, the period that I like started like struggling, this was like A levels. 2 years
Mm-hmm.
of A levels, that was like peak worst mental health. So basically, at that time, पढ़ाई की वजह से, I think it was just photography was convenient, so that I
Mm-hmm.
used to do only. और इसके अलावा I wasn't doing anything art related anymore. Even though I was like interested, it's just like when there's so much to do and you don't have time, it just
Mm-hmm.
goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I actually like in my second year of A levels, that's when I like actually started like talking about it and getting help. And when it started getting better, only then, like how you mentioned that I took the jump and like I took the risk to like go someplace that isn't like mainstream or established. So it was only like when I had myself at a relatively stable position that I was able to take the risk, that I was able to realize, अच्छा मुझे ये अच्छा लगता है. I don't want to go to the, matlab,
Mm-hmm.
like the mainstream way where it's just like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's doing. Not that it's like if you have your interest in that, that's great. Then
Mm-hmm.
it just happens to be mainstream. So
For
yeah,
sure. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So basically, when I was like relatively stable, it was only then that I decided to like focus on art. Even though that becomes more of a career, that's a whole interesting conversation. Alag se the
Mm-hmm.
career and passion intersection, but I think I wasn't able to like some people gravitate towards art to cope with mental health. I wasn't one of those people
Mm-hmm.
because I have like sort of perfectionist tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't like do things halfway and then just like stare at them like feel guilty. So yeah, थोड़ा बेहतर हुआ उसके बाद I was able to move in that direction. That's basically a
So
summary.
it's very interesting that you mentioned being a perfectionist and that sort of hindering your art, because that's something I
Yeah.
personally struggle with a lot as well. Ki whenever I'm working on one of my films, I often am just constantly revisiting old scripts or old films that I've already released and thinking of ways I can make them better, thinking of things I could do differently. And it it's weird because sometimes it doesn't sort of manifest in the moment, it manifests later on in time. Because one of the biggest things that I learned in, I think, AS, and this was something my media teacher at the time in Cedar taught me, was that once you've completed a project, don't ever go back and look through it again. Don't ever
Yeah,
do it.
definitely, 100%.
And at the time, obviously, I was, I was dumb, I was young, and I was like, no, no, it's fine. I like what I did. It's really nice. And to be honest, I was really proud of what I made. So we in
Mm,
AS,
yeah,
some of the viewers today might already know this, but in AS, I had to make a 2-minute opening sequence for a film. You personally saw
yeah,
me struggling with this thing numerous times in
yeah,
Cedar. So
yeah, yeah,
I rewrote that script at least 21 different times. There were 21 versions of that original script. And I think the final
mm,
version, the 22nd version, it wasn't even on paper. It was literally just verbal. I was communicating to my DOP, हम लोग ये करेंगे. We're just gonna do it. It was not put down on paper. It was just at a point where I was like, you know what? I don't think we're at a point where this can be perfect. It just needs to happen now. And then now going back and watching that old project, I find so many issues with it. I'm like, continuity issue, continuity issue, continuity issue. There's this one hilarious thing from it, wherein there's a couple of shots that are just close-ups of me, and as they're going along, my hairstyle is changing through
yeah.
all three shots. And it's the most hilarious thing when you watch it back because you're just like, what is going on? And it's so hilarious. Um, but it's also at the same time it's also really upsetting when I'm just like yeah थोड़ा और time लगा देता हूँ थोड़ा सा सब्र से काम कर लेते हैं things could have been a little bit different but also growing to learn कि life can't always be perfect. Things will always mess up. Things will always happen. But being
And
able.
I'll tell you one really interesting thing that I've learned from art school. So yeah, how you mentioned that you wrote like 20, 21 scripts before like getting to the actual thing? Like that is like that, like we like perfectionist tendencies and all considering, we like don't take that into account. Art school mein ho ke a lot of our grade depends on the progress that we show. They need to know that मतलब एक तो भाई plagiarism वाला पूरा किस्सा अलग जगह, लेकिन they genuinely need to know the process that you went through ना. तो we don't consider that वो जो 20 scripts की मेहनत तो थी ना, if it's only that you went through those 20 scripts that you got to the 21st or the 22nd. So I think as like अभी social media आ गया के age में, we see everything so perfect and then everybody is just like everything is in your face. We just forget to consider that मतलब कि the process that you went through. Oftentimes, like I have had assignments where the end result has been like incomplete or so bad, but then I've ended up with a good grade because they're just like हमने मेहनत तो करते हुए देखा है ना तुम्हें. So
That's
that
really
I think is
brilliant.
really interesting.
That's something that I personally feel like is something that should be recognized quite a bit more as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because so for media studies in A levels, we are also asked to update and maintain a blog of our entire course, like our entire time while working on the portfolio. So in AS, what I used to do was they didn't have exactly any guidelines for how we were supposed to maintain and keep up the blog. Because I think उस वक्त नया media studies Pakistan में आया था, and we were actually Cedar's first batch of media studies students. So it was basically a huge risk for them as well. So they were like, just figure it out. And we were like, okay. So all of my classmates were doing it differently. Many of them weren't even taking it that seriously, but I personally really enjoyed it. So what I did was every single day that I worked on my portfolio in any capacity, I made it one day of work. And that's how I put it up on the blog. Day 1, day 2, day 3. So each day would be something new. So day 1 was, let's say, scripting. Day 2 was casting. Day 3 was auditions. And I'd either do like a write-up and post some samples of what we'd done, or I'd put up videos. So I just record a video with my iPad and just upload that directly onto the blog. And it was such a nice feeling going back through that thing once it was complete, the entire 30 day or however long that thing actually took, going through the entire process and looking at the struggles, looking at the work that was put into it. I don't know how much how much importance Cambridge personally gives to the blog.
I don't think Cambridge does it all, honestly.
I mean, Cambridge doesn't.
Like, I think Cambridge is very weak in that, honestly.
For sure. Like, if that doesn't, like, I personally feel like that should definitely have a higher, importance. Like you just pointed out, okay, it's still that struggle, right? And still that mehnat. In AS, I don't think any of my classmates took the sort of approach that I took to my portfolio with at least in terms of scripting, because I was the only one who was using proper scripting formatting literally from day 1. So I was doing that. And I think I was the only one who put in so many different revisions constantly to my script. Also, again, coming back to my whole perfectionist mentality, okay, I wanted to keep doing again and again and again and again. Like I feel like at that point, my partner was also getting sick and tired of me and my constant revisions because of how we'd gone about things, right? But it's also putting yourself in that position where you're just like, yeah, it's either doing it right or just getting done with it.
Yeah, honestly.
So that also just comes back into play, right? Okay, when you're trying to balance your mental health and also this assignments that's just right there in your face. It starts off at a point where it's just it's something that you actually wanted to do. You were super excited about, but by the end of it, you're just why?
You're done with it.
Why am I doing this degree? Why am I in this class? What's going on? So
No, honestly, imagine that like with all of our assignments. That's honestly what I've realized. कि मतलब देखो, we set ourselves up. मतलब we see art students all over YouTube and everything, and then they
mhm,
have these perfect works of art, and then हम अपने second semester में okay, we expect perfection from ourselves, and I'm just like, अभी नहीं क्या, मुझे ही करना है, रोना नहीं है, assignment तो पहले याद आ रही, बैठ शुरू कर लो, खत्म करो. क्योंकि honestly, even the teachers don't expect perfection from us. Like I remember जब मेरा पहला semester था, there was this sewing assignment ऐसा कुछ था, तो everybody like took help from someone outside, मतलब, and that's not bad at all. I didn't. सही है,
mhm,
and my like sculpture at the end looked like a joke, and
mhm,
I was so embarrassed of it. But then I got a passing grade because the teachers don't expect perfection from us. They're just like, you're here to learn, and that's like I think IVS की ये अच्छी बात है.
mhm,
Like as compared to the Cambridge वाला system भी.
mhm,
So I think that they have like deadlines बहुत ज़्यादा होती हैं, लेकिन
mhm.
they have like
I
realistic
mean,
standards.
deadlines, though, I feel like that's an issue generally with the education
Hmm.
system because given the
Yeah, yeah,
current time that we're in, literally like right now in December, late December as we're talking,
yeah,
all of my friends are either swamped with exams, or assignments, or classes or whatever. And it's gotten to a point where I've had multiple friends breaking down just this week. We're recording this on Thursday, December the 24th. And I've had multiple friends
hmm.
breaking down during this week because they're so exhausted with everything that's going on. They have so
Yeah.
much on their plate. Some of them don't even have time to breathe, it feels like, right? So I feel like
That's
that's
right.
generally a criticism of the education system as a whole. Okay,
Hmm.
students are just so overwhelmed with everything that's going on. They feel like there's literally nothing that they have time for. So I definitely feel like that's a very important criticism to make. Apart from which, there are things that I personally feel like universities do better than, let's say, A levels or college, right? I love the
Yeah,
fact that you have multiple facets that play into your final grade. It's not just one exam.
yeah.
The fact
I
that you
know
have
that. So
assignments, the
relatable.
fact that you have presentations, the fact that you have class participation marks, all of these things eventually play into your final grade. So even if you
Hmm. Yeah.
manage to mess up that one exam or you messed up one assignment, it's not the end of the world. And I love that
Yeah.
about education system, like the education system. Okay, it does give you some sort of leeway, but
Hmm.
it's also that same exact thing that puts you in various stages of mental stress, right? Okay, you come to a
Definitely.
point where you are unable to do anything else you want. So
Hmm.
could you tell us
Yeah.
about an instance where Padhai has gotten you just so down that you didn't want to do any of your art itself? Like apart from Cedar, when you mentioned when
Hmm.
you were so overwhelmed with it, you didn't want to pursue art or didn't want to do it anymore.
So honestly, like I think for me, depression plays a big part in it. You know, like कुछ करने का दिल ही नहीं चाहता. I think that's where I struggle the most with like दिल नहीं चाह रहा कुछ भी करने का, because you already have so much to do. You're just like क्या करना है, किसके लिए करना है. But then honestly, like अभी भी जैसे imagine like being in an art university and then all of your assignments you have to be creative, and then you get into a creative block of sorts. So I mean that's honestly what it is, I think. So I think मेरे लिए तो what works is just like acknowledging it, letting that time pass, and then just आ जाती है खुद ही कभी कभार. I say this as like having like somewhat stable mental health. I can't speak for people who are struggling right now, but मेरे लिए अभी तक यही काम किया है. थोड़ा टाइम दो, उसके बाद खुद ही दिल चाहेगा तो खुद ही कर लेना.
So it's like just like staying in the moment, more or less,
Yeah,
letting
yeah,
things flow, and just
yeah.
going with the flow
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah. मतलब
That's a
because
very interesting
honestly,
approach. Mm-hmm.
हाँ, sorry I interrupted you, but like honestly health से ज़्यादा कुछ भी नहीं है. तो I don't want anyone to ever think that they have to push themselves beyond their limit, you know, perfectionist tendencies and all.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, sacrifice mental health to just like be like नहीं मैंने काम किया है. मतलब if I'm creative I have to prove it. Honestly, you don't always have to prove it. Take time for yourself. And honestly, when you recover ना, मतलब थोड़ा दिल चाहता है, when you feel like doing work, then it automatically becomes better. That's what I think. You like
I
it
mean,
more,
yeah,
you like the
definitely.
process more.
Okay, when you often take a break, whether it's forced or by choice,
Hmm.
you you do get that sort of reboot, right? Where your body is just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we're back now, had a creative
Yeah.
jump start and things
Hmm.
are going to work. Things are going to make sense. And that does really work because at the end of the day, we're all just really, really weird machines wherein
Hmm.
each machine
Honestly.
needs its own sort of cure, it needs its own sort of treatment. And at the end of the day, the one thing that we all have in common, I believe, is that we all need a break. We all need a jump start from time to time. We just
I
don't
think this
realize
is
when that
like,
time is coming.
yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so I think this is like most visible in like YouTubers because they go from uploading, and that's fine because you see, and then what they do is they stick it out. They're just like, any सा content produce किया, and then you just feel like तीन चार vlogs लगा दिए एक साथ.
Mm-hmm.
Irfan Junejo, how he had that face and everything. I think that's most visible in YouTube. I think
Mm-hmm.
personally, like you जो करना है करो, टाइम पास करो, उसके बाद you get back to it on your.
So basically, me with the podcast.
हाँ, and that's fine, if you're not sacrificing on your health, then that's great. Honestly, you keep
Mm-hmm.
pursuing it ना. मैं तो वो भी नहीं करती, मैं कुछ साइड में नहीं करती. I just focus on this and then this only, बस और कुछ भी नहीं है.
But वही बात होती है कि everyone has their own way of coping and
हाँ,
keeping up
exactly,
with
yeah.
something. And
Hmm.
your way works for you, mine works for me because I'm in
Hmm.
a weird sort of place where when my mental health gets bad, I just start feeling bad about not doing anything at all, and I want to create.
Hmm.
I'm at the point
Yeah.
where यार क्यों नहीं कर रहा कुछ तो कर सका हूँ ना
Yeah.
कुछ तो
Yeah.
कर लूँ because
Yeah.
it's very relevant when you pointed out the whole social media point key we see all of these things on social media and that makes you want to create, right? Especially when you're a creative. um,
Hmm.
I'm on Instagram scrolling through my feed and I see so many people doing so many things despite quarantine, despite travel bans,
Yeah.
despite so many things, right? And they're still constantly doing something or the other. And it makes me so upset when I'm like, कि यार ये लोग भी तो मैनेज कर रहे हैं ना ये लोग भी तो कर ही रहे हैं ना मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकता. It's
Hmm.
annoying that my mind doesn't rationalize the fact that, oh, because you're a minority in a Muslim country which doesn't really support your passion at all in any capacity.
Yeah.
You're also a law student, so shut up. So it's difficult for me. Okay, I'm stuck in this sort of situation where though I don't have resources, I don't have
Hmm.
manpower,
Yeah.
and at the side my mental health is constantly in a deteriorating state where I'm just like I have kuch banana hai, kuch banana hai, kuch banana hai. Like I have multiple scripts probably ready or even half finished on my laptop as we speak, and
Hmm.
some of them might become like a proper thing, some of them might not, but
Hmm.
who knows, because
Hmm. Honestly.
with how difficult life gets for everyone involved, I think I just keep coming back to that point where it's needing to take a break and stepping away from it all for some time
Yeah.
that makes things doable in the end, right? Okay, until and unless you step away and look at things from a different perspective, or sometimes not even looking at it in that sort of capacity, you realize कि हो जाता है.
And honestly,
It's
it takes some time for you to like actually let yourself accept that you're allowed to have that time.
mhm.
क्योंकि अक्सर टाइम यही होता है कि even if you're not working or just like physically मैं काम नहीं करी, mentally or just like काम नहीं करी, that's bad, I'm wasting time, this and that. It takes a lot of time to like actually mentally like have that hold on yourself कि नहीं, I'm allowed to happen, I'm allowed to take a step back and then get back to it when I feel like it. You shouldn't like, and it's a journey to like not make yourself feel guilty about it.
For sure, yeah. Like I definitely feel like we all come to points in our life where we need to understand what's good for us and what isn't, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes, as upsetting as that may be, our art is one of the things that becomes bad for us, right?
Hmm.
It's bringing this sort of negativity into life कि यार मैं मेहनत कर रहा हूँ दिख क्यों नहीं रही. I'm putting in the time, why isn't it showing? I'm putting in all of these emotions, why isn't it showing? And
Yeah.
sometimes it just doesn't, because
It
something
is.
isn't working. Whether it's you being unable to focus, whether it's you being unable to use the talent that you have because
Mm.
you're tired, you're emotionally exhausted, you're mentally drained.
Yeah.
All of these things do play like a huge part, right? And the fact that often we are put in situations where we as creators feel a need or a obligation to create, that
Mm.
also I
Yeah.
feel like puts a difficult strain on our creative abilities. Like you spoke about how, art school has obviously its positives, but also has its downsides. It's not as magical as it always looks on the internet.
Mm.
So,
Definitely.
how much time does that leave for yourself or like personal creativity?
I think like it definitely makes it easier to be in this field and be able to like pursue creative interest of yours. Like, you are in law school and then you have to take time out separately, alag se bilkul, independently. And I admire that, honestly. You and all of our other friends who do that. But I think it definitely makes it easier here. Lekin honestly, for me, other people have like more mental capacity to do it, but I feel like maybe like all of my creative energy just goes towards this because I am very like when I get into studying and I'm just like I just see that pass hona hai or not because I feel like I struggle with my identity a lot. So if I'm not a student, then what am I? No, something like that. That's a whole
Mm-hmm.
other thing. But I think all of my creative energy goes towards this. And अब जैसे semester खत्म हुआ है थोड़ा wind up हुआ है तो then I'm just like अच्छा I have like all of these skills to play around with. So now I can like actually think about something that interests me. But I am very passive. I am not one of those active people who will be able to pursue something and execute it and then actually put it out there for the world to see. I am not that person.
So
So
it's
yeah, I
interesting
think
that you
that
mentioned
that
that because, I mean, we also had that time period where you had a public Instagram account. So
yeah.
So do you want to talk about how your mental health affected that account as well? Because that was a very interesting time seeing you,
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there, sort of going away
Mm-hmm.
from the whole Fahim that we essentially knew in that time, the sort of shy, reserved person that we knew, putting yourself out there. So what
Yeah.
was that like?
That was, I think it was like a fun thing at the beginning. It was really fun. I had
Mm-hmm.
like, and then so many people are so nice and complimenting and validation and all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really nice. It was really fun. But then I think social media is just not like I'm not compatible with social media. So I think uski wajah se I just quit everything. So that's
Right.
like social media wala pura scene. But otherwise, it was like it definitely had its like ups and downs, like because it was like the first time that people are actually like acha wo tumhara account hai acha this is so nice and this is so nice and people are actually like seeing my creative side for the first time, so that was really interesting to play around with and then understand what I like, what I don't like. Because even if it's on like fun, if it's like for fun and then just putting it on my account, you discover a lot about yourself, you learn about your interests and everything. But I feel like at the end, it's just social media is just not क्योंकि I started gravitating towards those numbers. एक दफा numbers बढ़ गए तो numbers आए. It just moved away from being something that I like to do and बस मेरा हाथ automatically numbers देखने जाता था. So I was like बस हो गया मेरा खत्म. So it's just like I had to quit because mental health preservation.
For sure. And
So
like
yeah.
for our listeners who are joining in who haven't seen that period, do you mind like describing that entire thing as well? Like the Instagram as a whole and then what that sort of represented for you.
Acha, so basically, I think what pushed me to it was like I had established this like very good group of friends in college for the first time in my life. This huge group of friends full of creative people and everything. And I think that was like sort of like a push for me to venture in that creative side. But I think I started it, and then shuru mein it was really fun, and everybody used to be like, "ये तस्वीर हमने ली कब? हम भी तो साथ थे, ये भी तो हुआ था." It was really fun, and experimenting with different themes and everything. But then उसके बाद, and that was going for like a year, I think, maybe more. I don't know. But then I think but then I started like stopped posting because I lost interest. So I stopped posting, and then उसके बाद I think college ended, and then I just lost interest altogether. So I just, and that was a period of my time where I was just like really assessing my relationship with social media and how it affected me. So I just was not vibing with it. So I just shut it down. It wasn't a thing of like I didn't enjoy it and everything. It's just the nature of social media just got too much for me to handle. So I had to stop it for myself. That's
That's
basically
also
what it
something
is.
that I personally struggle with a lot as well, wherein I have gotten to a point with at least Instagram where I no longer enjoy the app for itself. Whenever I'm posting, I'm looking for that validation that I see other people getting, because I'm comparing myself to them and I'm like, yeah, I'm just as good, if not better than this person. The only
And
reason
it
they're doing
sucks,
better
it
than me,
sucks to,
yeah,
it
the
does
only
suck.
reason that they might be doing better than me is because they know more people or they have more friends who are sharing their work, blah, 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 XYZ, right?
Yeah.
And as hurtful as that may be at times, it's also true. It's also
Yeah.
true that they are in a position where it's just easier for them or better for them, you know? And that really, really upsets me because I wish I was able to do that, you know? Like I was able to put in that sort of hard work. And I just wish things were different, you know, for that one sort of instance, that one moment. I wish things were different. And I had that sort of opportunity as well. So
And it takes a lot of
I've had
like,
that. Mhm.
yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
So
I'll,
I've had that sort of instance where I've taken a break from Instagram, walked away for a little while, you know, and just not posted at all. Like I was still posting on stories and whatnot, stuff like that, but I was hardly posting my photography up. And it was a very difficult time because I was stuck in this constant loop of, okay, but I'm doing good, but I'm doing great. My pictures are good. I really like them. My clients really like them. Why don't people like them? You know, it was just a very difficult cycle of trying to figure out if I'm good enough for me or for people, you know. So it was just a very
and it
troubling
sucks to,
time.
like, it takes a lot of courage to actually put yourself out there. Because even if you don't get the kind of response that you want, it's still like you're being so vulnerable, putting yourself out there, everything. Matlab, you're showing your creative side, maybe that you, like in my case, haven't shown anyone else and everything.
Mhm.
But it takes a lot of courage, and when you're putting all of yourself, मतलब जितना भी time you, कितना भी free time मिलता है, everything that you have, you put into something, and then it's just, it gets absorbed into this whole sphere of accounts and
Mhm.
media content and everything, and it just sucks, honestly.
It does. It really does. Like I feel like this sort of predicament also really highlights the importance of taking breaks, ek to from social media, and
Yeah.
then also it also makes me sort of appreciate the people who manage social media for a living,
Oh
because
yeah,
those people
definitely.
genuinely ek to put in the time and effort to understand how social media algorithms work. They're good at what they do, and it shows because they're able
Yeah.
to use their abilities to make the best of, you know, whatever content that they're asked to put out. And it's this amazing sort of thing to see them in their element, and massive respect for them and what they do, because I have not been able to do it at times. And the fact that they do it day in, day out for an entire year, that's just amazing.
It is, to be able to maneuver it like that takes a lot of skill and effort.
Hmm. I think for people who constantly struggle with mental health, at least you and I, we both had our ups and downs, but I feel like one of the biggest things that really helped with that sort of process was having someone to relate to,
Oh
because
yeah.
having someone who understood this sort of side of us that
Mm.
other friends tried to understand but couldn't
But
to this sort of level, right?
mm,
Like I
yeah.
found myself in a position where you and I were talking about things that I often wouldn't even talk to my best friend about, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because of course they mean well, and talking to them is always helpful, but they don't understand the gravity of the thing the way you
Mm.
might, or the way I
Yeah.
might. So
Honestly, that was very comforting to like see another person in the same point as you, and like just having that is something very big. To
it's
be
very
like,
interesting to
अच्छा
consider
सही है,
that
we're all
our
strong.
friendship
Yeah.
wasn't even that at that point in Cedar, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
we just
yeah,
newly become friends. We didn't even talk that much in Cedar. Say like our friendship
yeah,
properly took off after Cedar, like after you
yeah,
graduated. So it's
yeah,
interesting to consider, okay, despite all of that, we were just two depressed kids, just two depressed art kids gravitating towards each other because of this camaraderie. We're like, oh my god, you're messed up in the head
yeah.
also. Same.
Same,
मैं भी किसका हूँ. But no,
exact same तरह से, same traumas we share. Brotherhood.
yeah, it was really nice to have someone who I
Hmm.
didn't need to mince my words around, like
Yeah,
obviously keeping your triggers in mind as well. But it was
yeah,
nice to be able to be this sort of person. I guess I'm not sure how to phrase this, but it was
I feel
this.
like you have this, if you're talking to someone who hasn't been through that, even though they try to be understanding, you have to like cover it or like beat it in a way that is understandable to them. You have to put in that
Mm,
effort. But once you find that someone, once you find that commonality, as sad as that is, or once you find that, I think
mhm.
having that layer off and like being able to like show that side to someone, being able to relate to someone is very relieving. I think first of all, relieving and then comforting. Then it's just like दूसरे भी हैं मेरे जैसे.
And I think one of the biggest things also is, you don't need to go from zero, bilkul. Like you don't need
Yeah,
to go into that trauma bilkul from the baseline and explain it to them from 0 to 100. In most situations, they already have a certain idea, and
yeah,
bahut dafa it's not possible to go from zero because of the trauma that it puts you in. Most times, it might just have a negative sort of impact rather than being helpful. Usually they say, oh, talking to someone helps, but sometimes taking someone through the entire journey from scratch, that can be just as detrimental.
exhausting.
Yeah, and then it's
मतलब,
definitely
and it can be
exhausting.
negative for either you or the other person.
Oh, for sure. Because बहुत दफा ये होता है ना कि whenever I'm talking to a friend or even my mom at times, I have to keep in mind of the things that I can say and then shouldn't say, because
Yeah,
people who haven't gone through the sort of experiences that we've had, irrespective of how good or bad they were, they can't
yeah.
they actually can't fathom the sort of experience that it was, because they can't put themselves in your shoes. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, very, very helpful to have someone around who you can talk to and who can understand the sort of thing that you're going through. And being able to have that sort of person in my life during Cedar, which was arguably a very difficult time, but also a time of self-exploration and learning for me. I did definitely enjoy it and get to a point where I was very very I I'm not sure what word to put in here, but it was just nice to have someone to talk to, someone I could
Hmm.
be this side of me with. And
Huh.
yeah, like I've definitely gone through hurdles as far as my own mental health is concerned,
Yeah.
but seeing
I
the
think
sort of
having,
journey that you've gone
uh,
through.
and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that, having that is just like just acknowledging that we're all equally messed up and everything. That's a comfort of its own. And then just like being able to encourage each other, because when you're stuck in a situation by yourself, you're not able to see right and wrong. And when somebody else, matlab, even if you have like same problems or you've been through same things, the other person can like see you from like outside of your circle. They see it from an outsider perspective of sorts. So you can like encourage each other to get help, because I think in my like mental health journey, you were a big part of it. Like you were very encouraging. It was very encouraging to, an outsider said something to you, you're just like, get some help. You're allowed to talk about it. Just like acknowledging that and being patient with yourself. And then, you know, जब एक हमारी दोस्ती इसी basis पे हुई थी, I think at least that strength that came in. So I think it's very helpful to have that. Okay, even if you like understand how you feel, you're still able to view the other person from an outsider perspective and then tell them कि मतलब ये सही है ये गलत है, मतलब you need to like advise them sort of like okay, this is what you can do because this is what I'm doing, or like learn from each other, encourage each other and push each other forward, pass that time together at least. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, I do agree with that. Ki our friendship did heavily imply upon relying on each other and,
Yeah.
being that person who understood what we were going through, but then also being able to disassociate from that sort of instance and go like,
That's the word I was missing,
yeah,
disassociate, huh?
so I can put myself in your shoes, but then also tell you, okay, it's okay to not be okay right now. You are allowed to, you know, take some time. You are allowed to breathe. You're allowed to cry even if you need to. And it's very
And most
important to
importantly, you're
have,
allowed to like get help. I think that's what both of us struggle with this waqt. Like we do
for
both.
sure, and for different reasons, right? Like we also had instances of where it was not feasible to do it, whether it was because of, going somewhere, money, just
Yeah.
general fear. There's a lot of stigma still around getting therapy and getting help in Pakistan, and it's not as easily accessible as I'd like it to be as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of struggles that artists especially go through with mental health that people more often than not don't discover or get to know of, because
Mm.
most artists aren't that open. I feel like an exception to that, wherein I talk way too much and I share way
I
too
feel
much.
like there's like different types of being open. You're like you show
Hmm.
your creative side, I think, but like there's obviously the side of you, like I think you were mentioning that in the episode you did with Stephanie. You're just
Hmm.
like you've seen that side of me, that depressed side who
Hmm.
doesn't want to do anything.
Hmm.
So I think open hone ka, I think like I'm an introvert. I'm a hardcore introvert, and yet I'm
Hmm.
here right now, like talking about this stuff. So I think openness has like a
Yeah,
lot of
and it also has to do with like
aspects.
who you're being open around, right? Because you can't do that with
Right.
everyone. So, and I personally low key feel attacked that you would say I'm not that open with everyone, but okay, freaking.
नहीं नहीं
But no,
I
no, no,
नहीं
I get what
that's
you
a
mean
good
though.
thing, नहीं that's a
Yeah.
good thing that you should have your boundaries. It takes a
Hmm.
lot to the people who like actually share their mental health struggles online. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
so going
cannot
to
imagine
Anatana,
ever doing that.
it's important to know what works for you and then what doesn't. when it works and then when it
Yes.
doesn't. And
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that has been helpful about the podcast is कि एक तो it's basically an outlet for me, to be completely honest. It's an outlet for me to just vent whatever is going on inside me, and it's a different opportunity for me to interact with my friends again, to be quite honest. I've honestly been using this as an excuse to get together with my friends and just talk for an hour straight. And surprisingly,
Honestly,
people enjoy it, hearing me talk to my friends. So, why not? So,
we're all in.
I think that's what comes down to, like, all of these money making schemes. It's just a random stupid idea, and then people are like, oh my god, this is not that bad. That's what Facebook was,
Yeah.
and it worked.
No, honestly, it was.
So are we saying indirectly Project Manchala is going to be the next Facebook?
It could be.
Could
You
be.
never know.
You never know.
Maybe you have to go through 20 more scripts to get there, but then maybe you will
20 more scripts. Oh, good
never
God.
lose.
I don't want to go through 20 more scripts, but that was exhausting.
नहीं देखो, that's what I'm trying to get you. क्या कहते हैं इसको? What's the word for it? Like, पता नहीं. I don't know what. That's what I'm trying to get you used to. The process counts, the progress counts. Even if like social media पे कुछ नजर नहीं आता.
Mhm.
You just see this one picture, but like you don't know if the person has put like a week worth of effort into it. So like less
It
focus on progress and
reminds me of that
more
saying.
focus on progress.
It reminds me of the
Hmm?
saying, okay, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. I probably butchered
Even
the
though
entire
social media
saying,
might make you believe otherwise.
even though social media might make you feel otherwise. Yeah, that's definitely something that actually that's something that you and I both need to reiterate to each other repeatedly.
I
Because
think that's what I've learned, like going back into like studying and everything, seeing how much focus to put on progress and then not having social media be a part of my life. I think that just came together to be like, ये भी होता है,
Mhm.
ज़रूरी होता है.
It's
Realize
very
this for the
important.
love of God.
Taking one of the best ways that I personally cope with my mental health is taking mental health days. Um, and I
Best.
I personally do that by just enjoying myself during the day. Even if I have classes or whatever, I'll do it by getting myself a nice lunch, and I'll just spend the day watching shows or whatever and just enjoying myself. I'm like, I deserve this. I
Yeah.
Even if I haven't done a lot, I'm like, I took class today. That was difficult yesterday. It was still difficult today, but I still managed it. So I deserve this. And at the end of the day, it comes down to convincing yourself that you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be healthy, you deserve to be loved. And it's
And
very, very
you're allowed to step away from it, or you're allowed to take
exactly.
breaks.
Your mental and emotional health is reason enough to want to do something good for
Definitely.
yourself. Your physical
Yeah.
health is very important, but these two other factors are just as important, if not more.
Yeah.
So,
Without any of them, you're like
mhm.
non-existent, basically.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, I feel like everyone who is watching this right now or listening, um, I think the biggest advice that I could give you is try to figure out what your coping mechanism is, as long as it's healthy. Find your healthy coping mechanism, and just learn to take some time off from life for yourself, because it's important in ways that we often don't realize, and
Definitely.
truly plays a crucial role in how our life continues down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is just about it for me. Farheen, do you want to leave our listeners with some ending notes, some words of wisdom, if you will?
It's okay, words of wisdom from me. I feel like I keep coming back to this, but honestly, if your outlet for your creativity is social media, assess your habits. unfollow people for the love of God. I swear to God. Because what happens is that you see, like, you open your feed and then you see, अच्छा 10 लोगों ने काम लगाया, but then हर बंदे ने एक हफ्ते बाद लगाया होगा, but you just see this compilation of like this thing, and then that's what I honestly realized. I keep coming back to this because I realized how much of an effect it had on my mental health. Just social media में tools भी हैं, like you can mute people without them knowing and everything, you know, just do it,
That's
unfollow
honestly really,
people, just
really
like
smart. And
do
I
you.
personally do that as well. I really do often go off and like mute people.
So important.
It's so important, and it really does help not seeing certain people or seeing their work or whatever. It does help. It does play a certain effect on your mental health.
Well, basically assess your habits. वो बस assess थोड़ा करते रहो, be careful, and then you'll be fine. Because you know, creativity is like, it's what keeps you alive.
It
But
really
in
does.
this, aside from food and water, I think that's what is important.
Yeah, I mean, if you
हाँ, so
consider the fact that if there weren't artists in the world, लोग quarantine में मर जाते हैं.
I swear that's what I was about to say too, you know. What happened?
So
Books पढ़ी, movies देखी, Netflix binge किया.
exactly. So without us, ये सब मर जाते हैं फ्री. We're important.
हाँ देखो, honestly, doctors भी कहाँ बैठते अगर हम जगह बना के नहीं देंगे, कहाँ बैठेंगे?
Exactly.
You know, देखो मतलब the
अगर
levels.
अगर तुम सेक्सी कंसल्टेंट रूम नहीं बनाओगी तो लोग कहाँ बैठ के अपने रोते हुए बच्चों को
हाँ
रखेंगे.
देखो तो सही.
मेरा स्टूडियो इवेंचुअली कौन वो सेटअप करके देगा मुझे.
देखो ना.
But
That's
yeah,
basically it.
on that happy note, I think we're just gonna end this right here. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. I hope you had a good time. Farheen, I hope you had a good time coming on.
I did. I'm so flattered. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
Such
It
an
was very
honor.
nice to get to talk to you again. It's been weeks since you and I have talked, and this was essentially
Yeah.
just my way of getting back to talking. This was basically just my entire scheme
Yeah.
to get to talk to my friends. But thank you so much for coming on board. It was very lovely to have you. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and share the podcast. We're available wherever you get your podcasts from. If you would like for me to have a very specific topic for the next episode, if you would like for me to ask a specific guest on for the next episode, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. And I will see you guys, inshallah, in the very next episode. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Again.